CoronaTV viewers, this is Peter Keys from Leonard Skinner. I want to wish you all a happy birthday.
First of all, let's just do the elbow bump because we can't do the handshake right now.
Hello, everybody on Corona TV. This is Macy Gray at Jaffe Juice. Just hit me up.
You're smiling, and I saw your beautiful daughter earlier, who I said could come on the show anytime. Welcome, Ship Sick.
Thanks for having me, Joseph. Great to be with you.
Well, hello, everybody. That was the new introduction, the new opening to the show. A little bit of a countdown clock, and then, of course, you had that new opening. Do you like it? Do you like it? Tell me if you like it. I need to know if you like it. Not that I need the validation, but I need the validation. I'm very insecure. No, seriously. I'd love to know if you like that. Playing around all the time, and it's fun, right? This is Joseph Jaffe. You are tuned into Corona TV, which happens 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single weekday, and then we move over to the Zoom room for a smaller, more intimate, cathartic conversation. The Zoom room is in the show notes, so you should be able to see it, and I will share it again before the end of the show. So how is everybody doing today? You know what? My wife loves the opening, so, and my daughter and my wife love the opening, so I guess that worked out okay. So thank you guys. Although they, they could come and tell me themselves, I suppose. So we started a little bit late today. Again, a little bit of a gremlin, but we'll see if it works out. Wendy Mayhew, who is my guest today. Wendy is trying to do a little bit of a reboot, and hopefully she'll be on the show. She couldn't hear me, but I could hear her. I suppose that's the best case scenario in the world, right? People can't hear me, but I can hear them. So Wendy, I hope you are listening to this. I hope you hear this. I hope you come back. We missed you. We can't do this without you. We need you, etc., etc. So hopefully she'll be back. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I never quite know anymore, but I'm optimistic. I try and be as optimistic as possible. So yesterday we had Scott Monty, an amazing conversation. We did it at 5 p.m. He had his Maker's Mark. I had my single malt scotch. I think I might have had one cocktail too many because there was at least one slur at the end. But it was an amazing conversation. Today, hopefully, again, we have Wendy, and we have a plan B. So if it doesn't work out, we'll probably just have an early show or a smaller show, shut it down, and then just move over to the Zoom room, and I can record the Zoom conversation, and we'll figure out a way to share that with you. So encourage you guys. Such an important topic to talk about ageism and really just to talk about the mature population, seniors in business. It is not a contradiction. It is not an oxymoron, and it's something that we need to pay attention to. And then I think who's coming up the rest of the week: Tonia, Mitch, and Dean. But I did want to share with you the fact that I'm now, I can't believe it, fully booked through the end of May. Fully booked. It's incredible, and we have such amazing guests coming on. I'm so excited. But every single weekday through the end of May, there will be a guest. And I got to tell you, I really hope we're out the house by the end of May. We might not be, but I really hope we are. And even if we are, and I'm traveling again, or we're traveling, I'm going to still keep the show going. So I just want to give you that assurance. Before we talk about birthdays, it's a little bit of a sombering moment. A good friend of mine from the industry, Tim McHale, passed away last night, peacefully in his sleep. And I just want to read to you what his parents, what his family, I should say, posted on Facebook. It is with deep sadness that the family of Tim McHale inform you of his sudden passing on April 20th, 2020. Tim was active in the advertising, marketing, and media verticals for many years until he became a consultant to many companies in those fields, both traditionally and digitally. Tim is survived by his daughters Caroline Haley of Paris, France, and Mandy McHale of Berwyn, Pennsylvania. His grandchildren, Arthur and Clara, his brothers, Frank, Jeff, and Jack, his sisters, Kathy and Roseanne, and many nieces and nephews, a New Yorker through and through. And you see that beautiful smile on Tim's face. Tim actually had an accident in his life and became physically impaired, tremendously so, had such adversity that he had to overcome. But he never, ever stopped smiling. And Tim, I know you're looking down on us right now, and I hope you're still smiling. I'm sure you are. I'm smiling right back at you. I miss you. And, you know, Tim, as far as I know, did not pass away from COVID-19. Instinctively, we almost ask the question. It's kind of irrelevant, right? Because a passing is a passing and a death is a death. And that's why it's so important to celebrate every single life, every death, or commemorate every life, etc. That's why we do birthdays. That's why we do everything here, because every single person is important and every single person counts. And there are a whole bunch of birthdays. You know, Lewis Parks over here in Westport, Gordon, Morsha, Q-Rock, Mark, Julie, Jonathan, Randy, Stuart, my next door neighbor from all the way back in Cape Town, Sharon Levitt, Jeff Cutler. Jeff, hopefully you figured out how to tune in this time. Renee, Erin, Jeffrey, and Michael, happy birthday to all of you guys. And hopefully you're not feeling alone right now. Hopefully you're feeling completely connected with all of us. Let's talk about the numbers very briefly. The update from Johns Hopkins was around about 10:30 this morning, and which means normally they haven't updated. Normally I pull them in at about 1 or 1:30, but even with those numbers, all the numbers are red. They were green the day before, but they're all red now. And I think the things that we always need to look at, of course, is you know, just globally now what's happening. You saw yesterday that within 10 days the numbers in the US had doubled. And here we are right now at 42,458 cases in the US. Let's drill a little bit deeper. First of all, there's the 5-day moving average for all these countries, the main countries, I should say, combined. But actually what I did today was wanted to show you some of the individual breakdowns. It's funny, by the way, that you know, you see the key indicators. Green is down. Normally, when you look at the NASDAQ or the Dow, red is down and green is up. But here, green is down. And I think you can see the difference between, or maybe the similarities between the US and Italy. That Italy line is definitely trending downwards and quite substantially. In the US, it doesn't seem to have decreased, but it certainly has flattened. And you know, there's something that just hit me as I was looking at this chart, which is the first, I almost couldn't believe this is true. Is it really true that the first case in the US was reported 88 days ago and in Italy only 80 days ago? Is it actually true that we had our first case here in the US in January 22nd? Wow. I mean, that kind of blew me away to think about how, you know, Italy, that had been considered for the longest time to have been, you know, to have been the hot button, the hotbed, the big problem now in a way has been, and not even in a way, has been usurped by the US. So something quite, you know, I would say troubling, for sure troubling. Let's look at some of the comments that have come in. Joey, welcome, my friend. And you know, Joey is from the industry as well, and he also sent a rest in peace to our friend Tim. So yeah, so we're all thinking about you today. My mom is watching, which must mean that Cyril Ramaphosa's speech is finished. So maybe she'll put a comment. I'm challenging her now, right? Maybe she'll put a comment below and tell us, you know, what he said and if the lockdown in South Africa is going to be extended. Now, I've got to tell you, oh, Karen just said that an individual arrived in Seattle in January. So it really was. I mean, I remember it was early. You know, obviously there's been a lot of now debate, not just debate, but the federal government has been accused of not doing anything substantial in the month of February. So we know about that month for sure. But I think it was just relative to Italy that suddenly it just felt like something was out of place. And I suppose it was, because we really, I guess the narrative was we were always 10 or 12 days behind. And we had that heads up, and we should have seen the signs, and the signs were there. But we actually really were on a par. In fact, we were a little ahead of Italy. We weren't really behind at all, but we became behind. And Bob, of course, he has to come up with a hashtag. So today's hashtag is hashtag Hi Mom. Well, I can tell you that there is no Wendy at the moment. I haven't seen her. I think her entire computer has crashed. Hopefully I haven't infected her with a virus and a computer virus, let me just specify. But I'm not sure what happened to her. Maybe she'll still come back. So what I'm going to do is, I do have something that I was kind of saving for a rainy day, and it is kind of raining outside. So maybe I'll introduce that and share that with you. But while we're doing a little bit of, I call it a potpourri, if there's anything on your mind, let me hear it. Tell me what's going on. Have you got any questions for me, or any comments, or is there anything you want me to talk about? Because I am here at your disposal. And even though we've moved to this solution of interviews every day, I can still be flexible, right? I can move the show to 5 p.m. if that works for you. And I can even do a show on the weekend again. So maybe Wendy will come back on the weekend. She certainly could do that as well. There was something in the news which I think was quite substantial. And I don't know if you saw that, but it just hit the waves, the airwaves, just shortly before we came on. The FDA has just given the emergency green light to the first at-home coronavirus test. So things are starting to happen. And obviously there is a what, and then there is a how, if you will. There is the ability, we know we need to test, right? We need to test, we need to trace, we need to treat. We know about the 3 T's, but it's also about the how. So can we produce enough of the tests? And then can we get them in the hands of people who need them? And thus far, we clearly are going to test and need to test for 2 things. One is of course, to determine if we have the virus, if we are asymptomatic, and if so, to stay indoors and hopefully to ride it out. And then the second one, of course, is the ability to determine, guess what? We had it. We didn't even know we had it weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and we have the antibodies, and we are immune, and maybe we can donate plasma and help others. So there are a bunch of interesting things, I think, that are going on right now, and things that we should be thinking about for sure. Now, I mentioned to you that I have one topic, and I'm going to go ahead and share that with you. Bob just asked, what's with negative oil prices? I don't know, what does that mean? Does that mean that they're paying us to use them? It doesn't make sense, does it? I think I'm going to have to maybe read up on that and get back to you on that one, Bob. But I do have a topic that I want to share with you today. And as many of you know, I am a brand marketer. I am a marketer in general. I have the pleasure of teaching a course at West Virginia University, which I wrote on brand evolution strategy. And from time to time, I'm going to come in and talk to you about a bunch of brand-related topics. But there is one in particular that I want to talk to you about today. The other day, I went for a run with my son, and there was a man on the side of the road near his mailbox, and he was smoking. And my son looked at me, and I think there's an entire generation now growing up with looking at cigarettes as a pariah, looking at smoking as a pariah. Ironically, of course, there's been almost a counter trend with respect to vaping, but with respect to smoking cigarettes. I grew up in South Africa looking at the Lexington and the Marlboro Man and Peter Stuyvesant on the French Riviera. I could get the girl I would have those washboard abs. I would be a millionaire, a billionaire. I'd get, like everything would work out if I just lit up. That was the way that cigarettes had been positioned, and now it's the exact opposite. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that today. Part of the book Built to Suck that I wrote was this idea of embracing your heresy. And there are many heresies. What if advertising went away? What if you fired yourself? What if you did a hard reset? What if you turned your back on your customer? What if you gave away your product for free and still no one wanted it? One of the derivations, or one of the subsets of this idea of advertising going away, or what if there was no paid media, was what if advertising became a pariah? What if all of advertising became as much of a pariah as smoking or smoking related advertising? And what's really happened is that smoking has become such a pariah that these are real packaging. This is real packaging in many respects. It's incredible to think of the fact that people are still, clearly it's an addiction, right? But people are still smoking and buying packets that have these disfigured and discolored and disgusting images of what really smoking does to you. Now, Juul at one point was allowed to advertise, and then it too was banned, not just Juul, but advertising, vaping advertising as well. And so we have these two forces, right? We have advertising, not as a force for good, but as a force for evil. I spent a lot of time, those of you that subscribe to my newsletter would have seen what I call bland advertising, and the whole "we've got your back" in the video that I showed last week on CoronaTV. And then you have this idea of smoking. And it just got me to thinking, what if this is the end? What if this is the end of advertising for smoking? What if this was the end of smoking? What if right now this COVID-19 will be the final nail in the coffin of smoking, the straw that broke the camel's back of smoking? We've never really been able to break through from a messaging standpoint or an advertising standpoint. We've never really been able to. The problem, of course, with trying to send out a public service announcement is that the more you tell a young person not to do something, the more they'll do it, the more they'll rebel against you, the more hard-hitting you are, right? This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs, the famous PSA. I actually wanted to share with you, look, I don't believe that there have been many successful attempts, but I think occasionally some things have been able to break through. This is one of them, which I just want to play for you quickly.
Over 80% of cigarette smoke is invisible, so no matter how careful you are, they still breathe in the harmful poisons. If you could see what's really there, you wouldn't smoke. Text invisible to 63818 for a smoke-free kit.
So I think the whole push and the whole project or plan associated with second-hand smoking was a big one. And I think that for the first time allowed people to see smoking in a different light. And I think the message was, if you don't care what this is doing to your body, to your lungs, at least care about the people around you. Care about your infant, your newborn baby, your children. I think for the first time, it allowed people that either were struggling to quit, that knew they were addicted, or maybe just were being selfish, to feel that selfishness, that it actually wasn't about them anymore. And also that concept of a stigma. If you saw someone walking their baby and smoking, you'd almost want to chastise them. Well, I think from a cultural standpoint, this is what's happening right now. And I think now that we've recognized that COVID-19 is pneumonia connected and a respiratory based disease, or at least influenced by or affected by, maybe this will be that tipping point in a way. Karen just said, so true. There was one thing I didn't want my 2 children to do, which of course they had to try. Yeah, but hopefully now, Karen, there is this added waiting, which is if and when this happens again, and we certainly hope it won't, what will happen is we need to be better prepared physically, you know, and yes, you know, for the most part, going through this evolution where we don't know what we don't know, where we think we know what we don't know, but where we're learning all the time, that if we're fitter, if we're in better shape, surely we have a better chance, we have a fighting chance. If we came into this with underlying conditions, and let's be clear, obesity is an underlying condition. Being a smoker is an underlying condition. Living a life that is not healthy in terms of your mind, in terms of your body, is not healthy. So we need to make sure that the vigilance in terms of how we look after ourselves, again, physically, but also mentally with respect to our mental strength, we need to be better prepared as well. Think about that for a second. You know, it's something that I've even spoken about from a corporate standpoint. The companies that were teetering on the edge coming into this, that didn't have the buffer, that were struggling with Amazon, you know, the bricks and mortar companies, they are now basically done. I mean, they are in peril. The companies that came into this with a buffer, those are the companies that have that little bit of margin or that room for error, that safety net, that comfort, you know, that little bit of comfort as well. Well, the same should be true with respect to our physical selves and our mental health and wellness. If we were fragile coming into this, it's so much easier to fall to pieces or harder to keep it together. And I think kind of coming out of this, you know, I even said to my son this morning, he was lounging around in bed and look, he's not feeling well. He's sleeping right now. But I actually said to him, you don't want to be lying in bed waiting for your next class to start. You want to get out of bed. You want to get out of bed. Look, I'm not saying get out of bed at 7 a.m., which is when he normally would get out of bed. Maybe 8 or 8:30 or even 9. But you know, get dressed, get up, get in the shower. Try and create a sense of normalcy, even when everything around you is not, in fact, normal. And so that's why I just wanted to share with you today. Oh, look, hi, Lindy. I didn't realize you were on. I don't know what part of this you thought was amazing, but I'll take the compliment. But I want you to think about that for a second. That's the thought of the day in a sense, which is, could this be the end of smoking? And that would be a good end. That would be something that we would hasten and accelerate and welcome. The end of something that has only been negative. And as a result of all these people smoking and struggling to stop and quit, those people became more susceptible and more vulnerable to this disease. And certainly for those people that are out there, don't feel bad, don't feel scared, don't feel mad. Quit now if you can. Why not? Why wouldn't you? And hopefully you will make it through this and you will be safe and you will be sound. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. There was no Wendy, but she's going to be in the Zoom right now. And I'm going to go and see if she wants to hang out with us for a little bit. We'll figure out a way to get her back if that's what it takes. You know, we were talking about seniors in business. Maybe, Wendy, we should be talking about seniors in technology. I'm just kidding. We'll figure it out. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow with Tonia later. Maybe I'll bring Wendy on as well. Maybe have Wendy for 15, Tonia for 15. We'll be talking about seniors in business. We'll be talking about breaking free from organized religion. It's an invariable smorgasbord, but that's what you expect with CoronaTV. So guys, have a great day. I will see you back tomorrow. Take care of yourselves and each other.